Back from Reefapalooza, back from not being on Tuesday, having to recover.
Straight from Orlando, Florida. We're right here in Morgan Hill, California at the Neptune Systems studio.
Another episode of Let's Talk Reef. This is a super important episode because we are going to be doing the up, down, left, right, in and out, everything on the Neptune Systems sky right here. So if you guys want to get people in on this and see what's going on, please share it. Please get the word out there, and we're going to have a great show. We're going to take your questions. Vincent's over here at the helm. He's going to be tagging the best questions out there. We're also going to do an NSI kind of announcement.
We get asked about that all the time.
Neptune Systems Insiders, for those that don't know.
And people are always asking, hey, how can I get in there to test something? How can I get in there testing? Well, at the end of this episode, you're going to have that opportunity.
Some will. Some will.
If you meet the criteria.
If you meet the criteria. But you'll have to wait till the end of the episode to hear about that. But some people are likely to be super happy because they will be some of the first people to actually run the Neptune sky over their aquariums and, just be like, with all their friends, like, oh.
Yep, they have an opportunity to get some skies like next week.
So welcome Dustin Pickering. Eric Schulist is out there. Mark Levinson, of course. We'll be talking about him actually in a little bit.
Yep.
Stuart Roosevelt, Donald Christman. We've got lots of people out there. George Kyriakidis. Did I get it?
Yep.
I think so.
Yep. Up in Canada, reseller.
So who we don't have is we don't have Derek here in this show. He messaged me earlier today and said he's got a more important meeting to attend to.
Oh my God.
So he said for me to wear the. You know what? I'll be right back, Paul. You keep him busy.
Off camera. So yeah, we just got back from Reefapalooza, Florida, right? If you were at the show and we were able to speak with you, Michelle, I'm glad I was able to answer any questions you had, and it was just a great experience. It was absolutely awesome.
I'm back. So Derek, Derek is all talking about me wearing the fanny pack and all of that. Mm-hmm. I've got something way better now.
I know what you're about to show off.
Look at this. Oh my goodness.
Look. Terrence, is that a backpack?
Yeah, it is a string bag, if I can get it around my body here.
Is that a Neptune
It's
Systems
a reversible
sky
Look at
string
this.
bag?
Look at this.
Oh my gosh, look at that.
You are the envy of everybody, if you get this.
How would somebody get one of those?
And I'm going to do it. Then this is the other side, so you can represent the sky, and you can represent Neptune Systems.
Terrence, how do I get one of those?
Well, if you watched Mark Levinson's video, you would see him unpack a sky right out of the box, and every sky that you will get either an orange or a gray string bag that they come into to protect them from all kinds of scratches or anything else that, who knows.
Yeah, but because in shipping, right?
Shipping, you never know what happens.
Else, you get a little knapsack.
But now you can use it. You can give it to your kids. Everybody can be sporting the brand. So no fanny pack for me, but definitely a string bag from Neptune Systems.
Yep.
I know, Brandon. It was a long video. That's why we have 2X on YouTube for those that know about it, and you can make it half as long. For
some people, it's a requirement.
But also, there's a lot of people who want to know all the ins and outs, and they're cool with sitting through it, because they want to get all the information on it. But we've got a lot to go over today. We're not going to be dealing with anything really except sky.
That's all we're talking about, right?
It's all about the sky today, answering questions, but going through each and every bit of information that we possibly can. Before we do that, though, we do have events coming up. So
we do.
Aquacello
will be also in Orlando, Florida.
Yes, in, 19 days or something like that. It's June 12th and the 13th.
It's very soon.
Now, we are going to be the key sponsors for the Aqua Crib. So if you're in Orlando...
The Crib of Aqua.
Yes, they do the psychedelic thing. They've got buttons that get pushed.
It is such a cool show.
Smoke goes off.
It is such a cool show. I remember the first time I got to see that show in Chicago, and it is a show, but it is also an experience.
Yes.
Right? So you get the chance to meet with vendors, you get the chance to buy corals, you get the chance to see kind of all the different things, but you also have an experience of the art. It's all done in these cool black lights.
Yeah, they do this black light. They do lasers.
It's
an experience.
The floor is dark in general. The floor is dark in general, so you kind of have everyone wears these neon stuff. It's very cool.
It's an experience. The whole thing's an experience, and then they have, of course, lizards in freshwater and saltwater and shrimp and you name it is all anything you can imagine.
Caters to both. So if you are in Orlando, Florida, or need to be in Orlando, Florida in about 3 weeks,
I will be there.
Terrence will be there. Tom will be there. Adam will be there. Vincent will be there.
Absolutely.
I will not, but the whole crew.
And Apex Mom will be there.
And Nancy will be there. That's
My wife Nancy,
right.
who is the Apex Mom. And so, okay, so we have that one, and then not too far on the heels of that one, we're up in New York, or actually
the Big Apple,
New Jersey.
No. It's Reefapalooza, New York.
Yes.
The fact that
held
it is
in New Jersey.
the fact that it is across the river in Secaucus,
yes.
doesn't matter. It's still New York.
Yes, and of course, last weekend, as Saltwater Aquarium came on here, said we did show at Reefapalooza. We showed off the skylight. I did some live streams, so definitely go out there and check those out if you haven't already. You can see 3 sky over a 6-foot tank, which was really the baller SPS setup.
It was a great tank. It was an Innovative Marine 200 EXT Peninsula tank.
Yes, a little known tank, really, out in the industry, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of the local fish stores and everything were really impressed with it. It was a beautiful tank.
Rimless, Peninsula with an external overflow.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really great tank, and it showed off everything.
The stand
well.
was nice and clean and easy to work with. Do we have a picture of the tank?
Oh, I don't know. We probably didn't put it together, but it's okay.
Real reef rock, and then amazing coral.
We had a Geo's Reef sump in there too, first of all, and we had a Ultra Reef skimmer. And just giving shout outs to all of those guys because it's great equipment. And what am I leaving out? Any other equipment in there that I'm forgetting?
Probably.
But and then on top, of course, we had the grow light underneath.
Yeah.
And then as far as the
Got
corals.
good feedback about the grow.
Huh?
Got a lot of good feedback
about
the grow.
we sold a bunch at the show, for sure.
A lot of show, and the people that run it loved it.
And then obviously there's 3 lights over it, and then the corals in there were everything, mostly I would say LPS corals.
Mostly LPS.
Which show really well at a trade show, but the meat corals were ridiculous.
So there was this colony of I'll call it a colony of Acanthostraeas, probably 6 or 7, just
Acanthophilia.
Is that what they are now? I don't
Yes.
know, whatever. But they were meat corals, donuts, and they were at volleyball size at certain
they were
points.
big ones. And you can see that on the live stream too, because we filmed all of that.
It was very
And then we had a 3-foot tank up front, another Innovative Marine 75 tank, EXT 75, to show people that one sky can more than adequately light the average 3-foot tank.
When we gave the specs of that 36 by 24, 30 spread, right? We kind of always had this skeptical eye, and it was great to take people over to the 75-gallon tank where they could see it. Well, there's the spread.
Well,
right
and
there.
point to the back corner of the tank.
Right.
Like
there's a 36 by 24 tank.
Right.
Looks like it's edge to edge to me.
Yep. Yep. So. Absolutely. So you will see those same tanks at Aquashella. So if you want to come check it out, we'll have great corals in the tanks. We'll have the exact same tanks set up at Aquashella. And it'll be a great event to see the sky in action if you want to do that. So
Absolutely.
Today we're going to talk all about the sky. So I want to get a little bit more esoteric in the beginning to talk about what it was we were going for when we built the sky and when we came up with what we're going to do for the sky. And it really started with myself and some of the others here, really with myself and how I ran my tank, and seeing the wide kind of spread that I got out of Coral Care lights on my tank. I mean, in quite honestly, it was just amazing what I was able to do. And I had you guys over to the house, and you looked at it, and you're like, this is insane.
I mean, basically when you visited that, so I saw the tank initially, right? And that's when you had those dimmable metal halides, which were cool, right?
Right.
But I remember the first time I saw it with the Coral Cares, and it just kind of was like, this whole tank is lit. Right,
and there was light everywhere. I mean, there were some downsides. I had to fill them in with more of the blues from the Reef Bright strips. But really, what we started to think about by seeing that is, and in discussions I had even with Ryan at BRS, was, when you see the coral reef lit, it's not just lit by one big ball of fire, right? That's over the top of it. It's lit by that, yes. And it's lit by basically the diffusion effect of the entire sky. So if you're scuba diving, in the morning, it's 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, the sun's just barely up over the horizon. It's not like it's all dark and harsh shadows all over the reef.
Exactly.
There's light everywhere.
It's very bluish, right? But it's when you are at that 10, 15 feet, it is uniform, basically uniform light.
Right, you're getting light even though there's not that much sunlight out. And so in looking at that, and then in looking obviously at T5 and how T5 coverage, and then looking at lights like the Coral Care, like the loopy LED, like the original ones that I think was it Triton, the Triton guys had, that they used to have lights under those. And all of those lights, when you had this even coverage, even the ones I built myself in 2010, it's a different,
on your 210
in a different enveloping light. And so that was a direction that we wanted to go. And when we looked at the, some of the offerings, like even the ones I had on my tank, we just wanted to fix all of those things.
Right.
Wanted to have it be lightweight, wanted to have it be super controllable, super quiet, all of those things. And the other thing that happens a lot with a lot of LED lights out there, as we know, is you get weird artifacts.
Right.
So you get static, like looks like static TV, right? If you're lucky. Or you get the multiple colored disco,
right,
if you're unlucky.
And I mean, we saw this a lot more in the early, kind of advent of LEDs. If you can recall, I think when the first, there was the first real LED light that was kind of mainstream for me was that AI Soul, right? It had the 2 blue channels, it had the white channel, it had that really cool puck, right? But there wasn't a lot of colors to blend in that one. But then when the Vega and
started adding the
Vega and the
green,
and the first version of the Hydra, right? It was all of a sudden there were just so many colors. And it was great when you weren't watching your tank in a static environment, but once you put it in tank, your eyes would just do this thing.
Right, and the thing is that after studying it and looking at it, you can realize very quickly, like, oh yeah, it makes total sense. Like the old-fashioned projector TVs, you got separate beams of light, and they all have to come together somewhere to make one color. But if anything gets in the way of any of those colors, then you don't have white anymore, or the mix that you wanted. You have some other weird colors.
Right.
And this is what was happening, is all these lights were having to depend on being blended kind of in space and through the water of the aquarium, as opposed to having it already be homogeneous.
Right, and then you have something like a coral come into the picture to break that blending up. Then that's where you started to really just see this like rainbow of colors, right? And
it's fixed also by the other way that it gets fixed is when you have a single really hot point of light source. And that fixes that problem because everything's really close together in the beginning. But that creates a whole nother set of problems, which is like harsh shadowing, because you literally have a spotlight.
It's all coming from this single point right here, and all the lights
coming down.
It's why
when you look in the studio here, right, we've got these diffused light boxes and whatnot, rather than flashlights shining at us.
Right, because that would look really
have
weird.
Really harsh, horrible shadows on our faces. And it works the exact same way.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things that we really tried to affect. Some of the other more subtle things were we're all reef keepers. We kind of know the look that most people desire, right? It's not universal, but you can definitely fit it into this 180% group. And that radium 20K bulb.
That is the bulb.
That is like the bellwether for the most amount of people of what they like to look at. And so what you want to do is curate the LEDs or tune the thing so when all your channels are basically at 100, you're hitting that, right?
That's what you're getting. And I think that seeing it, I've seen the sky on a lot of tanks already, but when I saw it this weekend at that show in the mode that we call the coral growth mode, that's our 20K look, right?
Right.
Wouldn't you just say that? Wouldn't you say the vision that we had? I felt
it all comes together, and the thing
is
that if you wanted it a little more blue, or if you wanted it a little bit more white, the amount that you'd have to adjust to get to it wasn't very much. No. Some lights that have been on the market, if they've been tuned way blue or they've been tuned way white, in order to get to the other side, you have to then take the power way down.
Right. So now, instead of using the full wattage available just to get that blue look, you would have to take the whites all the way down, and now you're only actually using 100. You're actually
120, 130 watts out of the 200, or
right.
Or
and
whatever.
that wasn't what we wanted to do, obviously.
Yep. So that was something that was a big deal for us to work on. Obviously, we knew that this was going to be an expensive light.
Yeah.
There is no way to put together 104 LEDs, quality Cree LEDs, Lumileds, etc. Put them all together, put all of the technology, the enclosure, fans, all the drivers, all the everything that goes with it, and have it be a $400 light. That's just, and then it has to be sold through the sales channel too, by the way, that people kind of forget about.
People need to make a margin, like our dealers need to make a margin on it. All of these different things.
Yeah.
And so when you add all that together, that is how you get a
premium light.
You know, a light that's.
And you don't have to add on the diffuser like you
right.
have to add on other lights.
That is one thing.
Or separate lenses or diffusers.
Well, I think we talk about this a little bit later.
Yes.
But that's one thing. It is one light to hypothetically meet all of your needs. So it's not like, oh, buy the light at $869.95 and then add this.
Right.
And then add that. Right. It's just buy the light. It's going to go 36 by 24.
Right.
Right. And you will be satisfied with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cost is something that most people who are in this part of the game, they understand. If you already are not, wanting to spend like that for lighting on your tank, it's okay. That's your gig. But in order to get to this level, in the way that it's done and the support and everything else we do, it's just the way it goes.
Right.
All right, let's get to the raw specs. Let's get to just first of all kind of the brass tacks of what exactly
is in this light.
Is in the light. Okay. So to begin with, it's 200 watts. So it has a 219.4 watt.
Just call it 220.
I know.
I saw that you put in the notes. I thought you put in the notes for 219. I was like, just call it.
Yeah, but if I call it 220, then one of these guys is going to get on here and go, "It's not a 220 watt power supply."
Terrence.
But it's obviously it's a little bit more than the actual light will pull down, which is about 200 watts at 100% on all channels.
Yep.
There's 104 LEDs. It has built-in moonlights. So one of the things with some of the LEDs is they try to dual purpose the existing LEDs. Right. And what happens is when you have a range of control on a light that goes from 0 to 100, when you then try to take it down so that the first 1% has gradation in it, so you can dim it up and down.
Right, it's taking that 1% and then dividing that into 10 different sections, which doesn't work.
It doesn't work very well. So you get a lot of super bright moonlights on some lights. And we just thought, we can do better than that. We already have a moonlight product, right? And people use it for coral
spawning.
For coral spawning and all of that. So we said, no, we want to put in 2 LEDs that are also 2 colors, so you can also kind of color tune it to your liking.
Right, so it's 2 channels that are 2 colors. They're blue and they're white. You can decide the mix that you want.
Right.
All blue, all white, a blend of the two. It can follow the lunar table if you'd like it to.
Or it can just be a moonlight.
Or it can just be on.
So sorry, not moonlight, a night light.
Yeah, so when the lights are off, the moonlight is on.
In reverse schedule.
So we've talked about a couple of different things. We haven't finalized exactly what it will be if it doesn't follow the season table, but
there's still some stuff to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody knows that we're going to come out with a light, that it's going to be able to connect to an Apex, obviously, okay? But there was still obviously some question of, wow, what if I don't have an Apex? Because the Trident does require you to have an Apex. The Core doesn't. The ATK doesn't. So what's the Sky going to be? Well, we made it so that you can run it on Bluetooth.
Right. So that means that this thing right here is the controller for the Sky.
So you don't have to have an Apex at all, but you'll be in the same exact app. You'll download the exact same app as you do the Apex Fusion app.
So Apex Fusion will be a way for you to kind of get in your foot into the door if you don't have an Apex at this time. And the experience between the two is essentially unified. Right. It is the same experience you're going to have with the light. The only thing that the Bluetooth doesn't offer that an Apex Connected offers is you can't make adjustments to the light when you're not there.
Okay.
Right. It does.
Makes sense.
It does need to be connected via Bluetooth.
Right. So. And we were running that, by the way, at Reefapalooza, and it's the first time we've run it in such a crowded Bluetooth environment.
I mean, for the engineers, when I got back and told them we were surrounded by wireless.
Right.
We were surrounded by Bluetooth.
For sure.
And it always worked. The sense of pride and joy they had when I said that.
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work goes into making it
they spent
robust.
A lot of time making that robust.
So now the mounting options for it is where we got a little bit creative. We'll start out, of course, just about every light out there has an option to use a hanging kit with a wire, okay, which has a wire, and then you have like a little spread thing on it like this. And then you have, another little device that allows you to kind of pull through and tension it and bring it up and down by pushing the little button on it, okay? And we, in fact, do have one of those. But what makes it a little bit different is it's black. So a lot of these on the market that I've seen, I haven't seen a black one.
They're silver.
They're all silver.
Yeah.
And so I thought the black would be really cool, obviously, to match in with your Sky.
Right.
And, a really nice look.
Yeah, it works out just great, those...
Comes with these little thumb screws,
here.
so you don't even have to have a screwdriver either.
Yep.
You can they're little thumb screws, you just screw them in, boom, good to go.
Done.
So that's the hanging kit, and
that would go up into the wall right there.
Yeah, so this goes up to the top, right, like that, with a screw. So you basically put this piece in here with a screw first into your ceiling, and then you bring this back up like that.
Yeah, so I'll make a guide for that probably.
There you go. You're probably going to do some show people how to do that.
Probably do a guide with that, yeah.
Well, that's all great, but what do most people have over their tanks when they're upgrading these days, right? Because there's been so much evolution of a particular light, which is obviously
and also a really good mount. Right?
Oh, it's a great mount.
It's a great mount, and so
it's gone through evolution itself, right? So pull this one up so we can look at it.
Okay.
So this is the mount you guys are all familiar with. It's no secret. This is an Ecotech Radeon mount. What we decided is like, okay, at launch, let's focus on the light. There's a lot of a particular type of mount that's out there, and there's a lot of people who have that mount. So why not, like, by way of them doing it and us doing it, we end up creating a universal kind of mounting standard that maybe kicks off, and maybe some other manufacturer then also goes, yeah, I'm going to use that one too.
Why would, I mean, the idea here is there is so much supply of that just on the used market, on all the different markets. You may have had Radians at one time, and now you're running Kessels, and you decided, you know what, I do want to try the Sky, and so you can go into your storage and pull those out. You may be switching it out right then. Let me say that again, Paul,
because there is a question coming up. So somebody asked, obviously, isn't that covering your fans? Well, one of the things to note at first, and we'll talk about this maybe in a minute, is the way the fans are on the Sky. So you'll notice that on another light, it might be one single fan, and it's occluding pretty much a good part of that entire fan.
Right.
Well, number one, there's two fans on here, and number two, you can't see it right now in the camera, but there is still a gap underneath that bar. It's not flush against it.
In our testing, which we've done pretty robustly, it did not occlude the airflow all that much.
You want to be careful in a super hot hood. It's probably going to run the fans a lot faster. It might run the lights a little bit warmer than they would outside. But I would not be too worried about it. And if you're inside a canopy, one of the things also I was thinking about that is really handy with this mount is the curved mount that we have. You could literally bolt that to your Sky, and then drill one hole in it and mount it right up inside your canopy.
Right. The mounting solutions are kind of endless once you get into a canopy with this. Right?
Absolutely.
You put the whole pattern will be available, as we make all the whole patterns available, and you'll be able just to put that up into whatever you'd like to get it screwed in.
Now, since we're talking about fans, the reason for two fans. Obviously, there are passively cooled solutions out there for lighting, and 170 watt, 200 watt. But in order to do that, you have to have a lot of mass of metal. It makes it unwieldy over a tank.
Right. I mean, you're looking at a light that at the very least would probably be what, 14 to 15 pounds?
At least. I mean my original Coral Care was 22 pounds.
22 pounds on the V1.
Correct.
I think they got it down to 14, 15 on the V2.
Yep.
But think about that. That's something that's hanging above your tank. And you might have three of them, right? So that's 45 pounds that's just hanging above your tank.
And the other thing, too, is that if we went with one fan and put it in the middle, it means that we're going to have to spin that fan at a super high RPM. Some other solutions on the market actually spin them a lot faster, and that's where you get the fan noise. Compared to some of the most popular products on the market, this is about 7 to 9 dB quieter at the same power level in the same environment. It also has some redundancy because you have the two fans, so the light can still run even on one fan.
And the fan speed is controlled by the internal temperature of the light fixture, right, Terence?
Correct. And this extends the life of the LEDs too, because we're also running the LEDs a lot cooler than some of the competitive products out there in order to extend the LED life. The LEDs, bring air in from the top and blow it down this way, so it's actually pushing down on salt spray and things like that.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of effort in the whole kind of temperature management went into this.
Yes.
And of course you get alerts and things on your Apex when you're connected.
Of course it has a heat sink built into it as well to help dissipate that heat evenly and everything.
So at the end of the day, what we wanted to do is, in order to be able to mount this over your tank and use existing mounts like the one we just showed you, we had to get this whole thing, and it's large, right, in terms of comparatively to other products. It's 10 by 14 inches. We had to get that whole thing at just about 4 pounds, which it took a lot of work to be able to keep it cool and to keep it light, make it super
light was
lightweight.
a big part of this because the passively cooled ones.
But it's still strong, and it still feels it's got a lot of heft. It's got a great finish on it, a good rubberized finish.
It's a soft touch finish to it. And if there was one thing that people said once they actually saw the light in person, was, wow, that looks really nice. And a lot of people ask, like, can I touch it?
Yeah, of course.
And we were like, yeah, go ahead. And so they were able to touch it, and it does have a very, what's the word I'm looking for?
It just has a luxurious feel to it.
Yeah, luxurious.
So it's like what you would find inside a fine automobile with the soft touch kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And whether or not it needs it over your aquarium, I don't care. It's nice. You're paying that kind of money.
It was just a nice little, we could have just done normal like shiny plastic or something like that, but I think this just really sold it a little bit more.
So next thing to talk about is all the LEDs that are on this. One of the things to note right out of the gate, because we did have some people ask about this, and it will be apparent right away for people, is that like many lights, okay, the diffuser is actually kind of floating in the light, and that's intentional. You got it? Yeah. One of the reasons for that is if you make the diffuser super solid all around, you notice we have a very small bezel here, and that's so we can have the largest area of light and not any bigger of a fixture than we need to.
Right, we didn't want to block the light that we were producing.
Or just have something that's just bigger than it needs to be.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you then try to restrict this huge panel on here, and then somebody grabs that panel and squeezes that panel, is a high likelihood that they're going to break a restraint that's in there, because you're now taking 4 pounds and putting it on just a couple. So we decided to float it in there.
So it is an interesting feel, right? You kind of feel like, well, that shouldn't be that way.
Correct.
But
many lights are built like this, like in the ceiling, like ceiling tiles or fluorescent lights with a grid on them. They're all just kind of in there rather than bolted down. They float.
And so that's what the Sky does as well. So it does have, this lens does move inside the fixture, and obviously when it's down like this, it presses all the way.
Yeah, and that is just the diffuser panel. The rest of it is all obviously bolted together. It's just the diffuser panel. So the diffuser panel sits a little bit lower than the rest of the light engine. One of the other things to understand here is that there's about 8 different colors of LEDs in here, including the dual colored moonlights, right?
Not including.
Is it not including, or is it including? No, I think it's 7 without the moonlights.
Okay.
It's hard to keep up. But they range from a UV at about 405, which means it drops, if you look at the chart, a little bit lower than 405, a little bit higher, and then up through violet, all the way up to, what did I have here? 590 nanometers on the colored lights, and it does a 6500 Kelvin a white color along with them.
And that's all blended, taken care of. There's some other in the amber and the color channels.
Yeah,
right?
So there's 4 channels that all those LEDs come in through, and we've basically paired them up in a way that you really can't make a mistake in how you tune the light, right? It's going to work for corals. It's, you can tune it how you kind of want to look at it. And then a good part of the secret sauce is all of those LEDs. Pretty much 50% of the LED comes straight through the diffuser, but the other 50% actually bounces around inside this panel and then comes out as one homogeneous, set of light.
And that's what helps deliver this blanket of light we've been talking about, right? It's already blended. It's not going to blend in the water column.
It's like a skinny light box is the best way I can put it. We have these diffused light boxes that you pop. You've seen them. You pop them out, and the light sits way back here, and then there's like a foot or 2 feet, and then there's a panel there of diffuser. It's very similar to that, but in a very skinny manner. And then there's these little clear things that you see here. Okay, those little clear things are called shims. I love the name.
I know.
And 4 of them, these two and these two, are over the white LEDs, or a couple of the white LEDs, not all of them. And that brings back shimmer. So a lot of diffused lights out there, they diffuse everything, they knock everything down.
Yeah.
And so people want a little bit of shimmer, and it's hard to get on video, just so you know when we show it today, because there's a frequency of the video and there's a frequency of the shimmer, and so you catch some of it and you don't catch all of it.
And I think if you were to see the light in person or talk to anyone that went to Reefapalooza, they would say, yes, there was definitely shimmer on those tanks.
Right.
But there wasn't a lot of shimmer. Like if you're looking for Kessel shimmer, this isn't the light for you.
Exactly.
Right?
If you're looking, if you want the super intense, like swimming pool kind of look on your tank, this is not going to be the light for you, at least not by itself.
No, if that is a feature that you want and you want this, that'd be one of the rare instances in which you would need supplementation with this light.
Right.
You know, like with an A80 or something like that.
You can flip it back over now if it's going to fall over,
Do
Paul.
we want to show?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, we got the moonlights here too, and then they come off, right?
So these come off. So if you do like a flat diffused look, we have an accessory called the diffused shimmer, which has diffused shims, which has this opaque material and replaces the clear shims.
So you want it completely flat. And the two here are on the moonlights because absolutely you want shimmer on your moonlights. That's one of the most beautiful things on the tank at night.
Yes. Oop. Okay.
So there's a question on weather sealant to prevent moisture and salt creep. Absolutely, to a good portion of the light is sealed with some basically a gasket to keep moisture out of kind of where the important parts are.
Right.
And the rest of it is, you know, it's a little bit in air like a lot of lights are.
Yeah.
Okay, so power supply comes with Meanwell power supply, UL rated, as I said, and it has a really cool bayonet connector that's on here. And what this does is you pull this back, or the other side you actually pull back, right?
Yeah, it's the
other side.
The part that goes in the power supply. To pull this apart, you kind of have to have this little clip, you know, that you kind of pull back, so it doesn't just pop out.
Yeah, so you can be, if you're running cables behind your tank, you don't have to worry about yanking your power supply cable out of your light, right?
Right.
When you're bringing it along. It's a 12-foot cable, okay? And then it splits right at the end. So some people were asking, gee, I have to run two wires from it, one for Aquabus and one for power? No, because it splits right here, and you get both an Aquabus and a power supply cable right there. So.
Right. Not to be confused with USB.
Yeah, it's not a USB.
We will have a firm sticker.
A very important sticker on there so people don't plug it into their computer. Generally, the coverage on it is going to be 30 by 36 for a lot of, like most corals that are out there, your LPS tanks, your softy tanks, your zoanthid tanks, etc. Tanks with a few acros maybe up top. But for the most part, 24 by 30 is a good standard for like a baller SPS tank.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what we tell people. I mean, and if you do them at 24-inch spacing, it's going to be a ton of light. And you can run them transverse.
Right. If you are in a 6-foot tank and you are doing a mixed reef, the idea is here that you would need 2 of these lights. If you are focused on, you know, doing big SPS colonies, and that is your shtick, if you will.
Well, because it's one of these things too. When you start out with a little colony, and just about any light you can get, or enough powered light, will grow that thing to a certain amount. But as soon as it gets to where it or other corals can start to shadow the sides of it, that's when having that full coverage really matters.
And you can add a third light later if you need to.
That's another thing too.
One thing we wanted to also be very clear about is we wanted to be very clear, and there would be no confusion what the actual spread of this light would be.
Right.
We didn't say, oh, it can do 36 by 36 or something like that, when that's not really what it can do.
Right.
You know, that's one way we wanted to differentiate this light was that
well, any light, right? Also, Paul, any light can cover any tank you want by mounting it 4 feet up on the ceiling.
Exactly.
It's how much light are you going to get, and how much spill are you going to get. So coverage is a relative thing. Let's go to some questions now.
Yeah.
And Vincent, make sure you're tagging the ones about how many I should use over this or other things. So you're on the favorites right now. Let's see, it's stuff I haven't answered so far. Slow down, bro. Can you control with both Fusion and Bluetooth? Right. Well, Bluetooth is activated from within the Apex Fusion interface, so they're kind of one and the same.
So it's either when you are controlling Bluetooth, you are controlling through Fusion, but it is I need to be present to control through Bluetooth.
Right.
When it's Apex connected, you're still going to be controlling through Apex Fusion, but you can control it from anywhere because your Apex is connected to the network.
Correct.
Right.
Good question from Nick Williams here. Have you tested the sky without the diffuser in it to see the PAR, color, spread, and shimmer? So this is a very good question. In some of the early testing and whatnot we did, we had to test out all of the diffusers, and we also looked at it without a diffuser. And if you look at even lights that have good color blending in them, which there's some out there that have really good color blending now, you will still see without the diffuser this kind of static TV look on the sand that dances around.
You're going to get those discrete colors. Like those discrete colors will make their way all the way down.
Yeah, but even if they blend it good, what ends up happening because of the water is because there's no diffusion, so that it's a really sharp light, and you still get these little twinkle down in the bottom. And I remember us sitting in developer's office and going, okay, which diffuser's best? And looking to see at the sand especially, which one's best. So yes, we did try it. Is good question also because of the PAR.
The PAR was higher without the diffuser.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and whenever you put a diffuser in, you're going to attenuate the light a certain amount. Most of them on the market that you'll find out there of the most popular brands attenuate it somewhere around 12%, I think, or up from there. I believe I was told 8 or 9% on the diffuser that we have.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, but to a certain extent, it's only available with the diffuser.
Correct.
Right? So
it's not an add-on or an afterthought.
It's not something that we're like, oh, you could run it with.
It's how the light was meant to run.
Yes.
All right, another question. You see any good ones, Paul, that you want to?
Optimum height off the tank. So our recommendation is going to be anywhere from 8 to 14 inches, right? And about much more than that, right? It's just going to increase the spread.
Yeah, and that's going to depend on how many you're running over the tank too, because obviously when you put it closer to the tank, you're going to have a much tighter cone right near the surface.
Yep.
So you'd have to have more of them maybe across the tank in that kind of situation.
Where we have most of them mounted here in the office is about 9 inches or so.
Is that it? We were like 10 or so, I think, at
Joe's tank. We're at 10.
No, at Reefapalooza.
Yes, so we were
at around 10.
We were at 10 off the surface of the water.
Right.
Right.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Some people think it's some people think it's a tank. Yeah. So.
Got it. Lunar cycle, yeah, for sure.
So the Sky will support all the lunar and the seasonal tables that you're very familiar with. The lunar table, in fact, when you set it up, you'll be asked if you want to run your lunar lights seasonally. If you want to run your daylight seasonally, that's something that you would go in and you could configure in Pro Mode, but we're going to go through configuration a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna go into looking at some of that stuff here in a minute. Okay, so did we
I saw one.
Another question?
I saw I saw one question that was how much do I need for a 5? How many do I need for a 5-foot tank? Right. If you were doing softies, I would say you could probably get away with one.
You would get away with one with softies if it was up high.
Yeah.
Right. So you could get the edge-to-edge coverage that you'd want. Generally, a 5-foot tank is going to be 2.
I'm going to go with 2
okay?
for sure.
The only time it might be more than that is if the tank was really wide the other direction and you wanted to flip them the other way. So if you had a 60, if you had like a 60 by 36 inch tank or something like that. That's why there's so much variability in this.
Yeah.
I think there's a question on channels.
Right. It was.
Oh, and there's one on AB Plus too.
Yeah, we'll go through that in configuration and everything.
So there was one on there on do you have 4 channels and how many LEDs on each or something like that. There it is. They said it's 4 channels and each channel is 2 colors. So just
yes and no,
it's not really that, but what we've done is logically combine up different colored LEDs
so there's
in
essentially
certain
a UV channel, which is UV and violet. There is blue channel, which is blue and royal blue. There is a white channel, which has all the whites. And then you have a what we call an amber channel, which is...
well, it's amber, cyan.
Amber and cyan, I think.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
But the question too, there's a 6-foot question. What about a 6-foot tank? Do I need
really
3
depends.
of them? You don't necessarily need 3 over a 6-foot tank. It's really going to depend on what you're running. Maybe you start with 2.
I would say that if that tank is years and years old and it has volleyball size acros in there, right? You're probably needing 3.
Correct.
If you are just getting started and you need to grow that tank in, 2 is going to be more than enough.
Or if you're running them transverse, again, because it's a 6-foot tank by say 36 this way or even 30 this way.
I think I saw a 72 by 60, right? So that's a very large tank. Right?
A 72 by 60 is that's not a
ginormous,
normal tank. Yeah.
Right? So in that situation, you would run.
That's like a lagoon tank.
You would run 2 rows of lighting in that tank. So.
Okay. Anything else interesting? Okay. Let's see, Joe's out there answering questions. We answered that one. Okay, so Dustin Pickering says wants to be an insider and try one on my tanks on my 24-inch cube. Well, Dustin,
stay tuned.
You may be able to get
what
picked.
We're looking for.
Absolutely.
We'll go over all that a little bit later.
So, in creating a light like this, often you could just decide internally this is awesome and release it out there, but we have our Neptune Systems Insiders program, and we decided to use that for the Sky.
Yes.
Why? Because we know what we think, but reality are other reef keepers.
I think the big thing we wanted to test first in the Sky was we had been running it in the office for several, I don't even know how long. I feel like almost half a year.
I have some over my tank.
Yeah, and Terrence is running them, I'm running them, Joe is running them, Kurt is running them. But, we all have all those on all of those tanks, and we just had to make sure that...
Our confidence was high.
Our confidence was very high, but we had to make sure that, without much guidance, could we give this to NSI people, and could they immediately say, wow?
And have success, right?
And one thing you and I have been doing over the last couple months is consistently showing that success, right?
We've kind of given sneak peeks to different people out there. So we have a group of people that you may or may not know, right? That are kind of average Joes, so to speak, that help on NSI from time to time. And then we have some reef keeping personalities who also know how to keep reefs and, basically wanted to, have like next level in their tanks.
Yeah.
So actually right now what we're going to do is kind of go through some of those, Paul, because I want to show that. Okay. And I want to show also our tank here, Joe's tank and whatnot. Let's start out. Did I give Paul's tank over to you? I didn't, did I? No? Okay, well, that's okay. We've seen Paul's tank enough. Paul's tank has been lit and been filmed over and over on the Sky. It's lit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a single Sky over a 24 by 24 tank. It's a Red Sea 170. We've seen the pictures of it before, but I have colonies in there that are literally this big now, in a 30-gallon tank, and the shadowing is still there, but I finally started getting growth underneath those colonies.
And coloring.
Yes.
That's the thing too.
Coloring.
It's something you'll see in some of these tanks as well in the way the pictures go. But what I noticed in my aquarium too is people are asking, well, how does it get the light everywhere? Well, first of all, you start with a big area of light at the origination. That's super important, and there's a balance of that, of how big you can make it and still be reasonable on the tank. And then it can bounce around and it can get into places, and your corals actually receive light on their tissue all the way around. But if your light's not bouncing and hitting the sides of it, they're not actually converting, right, with their zooxanthellae, the light to energy to help grow the corals. And so you start to see this stagnation of growth in a lot of tanks. So that's Paul's tank. Pull up my tank for a second. I actually just did a trimming in February. This is a horrible photo, but this is my tank right before I was trimming it. That's why I just kind of shot a quick one. It wasn't at nighttime. That's why the reflections are on there. But the huge green slimer that's in the middle actually shouldn't have been tilting like that. Go back for a second, would you? Shouldn't have been tilting like that in the middle. It actually collapsed onto itself a little bit. And there's a blue tip green slimer on the left. But in addition to that, you might notice in the bottom left third of the tank, there's another coral. It's a little red Ferrari. It literally is growing back in the shadows under the tops of these huge corals that were growing above it.
It had color.
And this tank is 96 by 32 by 32. So
and 4.
Yeah,
right?
There's 4 lights over it. On the other end is a red dragon, which is probably about 15, 16 inches in diameter.
It looks to be about beach ball size.
Yeah, and everything is just, the colors, everything was awesome. And so we went and we did a trimming kind of party. I invited 6 people over.
I love this picture of you and Nancy. This is great.
There's Apex Mom.
Right.
So when I was getting ready to trim it, I saw that the whole thing was loose in the tank, and I'm like, what if I could pull this whole colony out? That's a colony that's been trimmed 3 times in its history in just under 3 years, under this kind of lighting, and it just grows and grows and grows.
Yeah,
it does. The proof is there. So that's kind of my setup. You can see there's a whole bunch of other corals on the right-hand side and whatnot, but you've probably seen it before.
It's an okay tank.
It's an okay tank. It works. Okay. So next up, what's next up? Do we have like Dwayne's tank and Rich Ross's tank, or? Because I want to leave the live one for last with Joe, if that's okay.
It's Derek next.
Derek, okay. So Derek Picker, he's had his now, I guess probably most of the...
3 or 4 months.
Is it 3 or 4 months?
Yeah.
It's probably about 3, I think.
I think 3, yeah.
He has his over his tank. He was running Radion G4s and T5s. He didn't think anything could compete with that. He threw the skies over the tank. I think he's got 2 skies over this tank and turned off the T5s.
This is pretty blue. It's pretty blue. Is this Pro Sky or is this pre-Sky?
No, this is post Sky.
This is post Sky.
Yeah, this is him with he's basically got the blues on heavy. He's a blue heavy guy. Okay, next shot. Oh, you got to turn his off. There we go. So this is a previous picture of Mark Levinson back in 2017. His tank under metal halides. It's not this way anymore. It's a lot more growth and a lot more stuff out there.
That's
the backside.
That's not Mark Levinson's, is it?
Yeah, I believe it was. Yeah,
okay.
It's the backside. That's why it looks kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
This is now here in March under metal halides along with the Reef Bright strips that he was running, and you can kind of take a look at this because you're going to see the other one in a second. Don't go to it yet, but look on the left-hand side around the dark areas of those corals and some of the dark areas on the tank. This is him running the. He's got 3 dual arc metal halides right now.
400 watt, right?
400 watt. Right now they're running in their, I guess it's the 20K mode or whatever it is, 14K. Or, I don't even know for sure. He's on here. He could probably correct me. Along with the Reef Brights. And then we just converted him. He was one of the last NSI members to convert. And here we are with it in May. And you can go read about it and talk to him on his channel, Me Lives Reef, on Facebook. And you can see that in the insides of those corals.
Can you go back to the other picture real quick? So
yeah.
Look, I want you to look. I think it's an acanth. It's a acanth ecnata, or it's a favia. I can't tell. But in the bottom left-hand corner, I want you to look at that orange kind of coral that's down there on the left. Now go to the next picture. Look at how vibrant that becomes, right? So that's down there in the shadows, getting kind of. Well,
you can see those monoporas in that shadow there, right? So look how much more of those monoporas you see in the shadow than you did in the previous
because
one.
we're getting light to new places.
Absolutely, and I know people say, well, how's that possible? Because metal halide is supposed to put light everywhere. Well, it does and it doesn't. It still has hooded, reflectors inside there, and so it does a great job. But, I'm sorry, I'm partial. I think we're getting light in more places.
I do.
With the sky.
I think you can look at that picture and
at some point he might,
know
he might decide, because this is a little bit bigger tank. I can't remember. I think it's a 7-foot tank, I think. At some point when he starts to grow a couple of these acros out even a little bit more, he may want to go to another light because he's running them transverse because his tank is very deep front to back.
Yeah.
So we're running them transverse, and he can add another light later on, and it's still only be 4 lights over the 84-inch tank.
It just blows my mind that that's
84 by 36.
Three lights. 3 lights do that. So.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So very cool, and you can go watch the video on YouTube, Me Live Reef, and here's some par numbers. We actually spent time measuring par before and after and matching them up. So the lighting that you see is not even 100%. With the sky in order to match up with...
Because we didn't want to shock his corals.
Correct. And so we averaged together the super high par of what nobody wants to really... I'm sorry, Mark. Nobody really wants to see the tank like, which is a 10K, in the dual arc.
Which he only ran for like 2 hours a day.
Correct. Yeah. And then the other, whatever it was, the other 6 hours, he ran it with the blue version of the dual arc. And so we ran those numbers together, and then we put them in. And this is what you're seeing for par numbers. I don't know, he can talk on here, but I don't know if it's like 70% or 60% or something.
What I love is pretty much the even distribution there across the bottom. You have 150, 160, 150. You have 100, but that's probably just that spot.
Or some occlusion or something,
But it's pretty even as you go across. Yep. All those numbers are within plus or minus 20.
Yeah, and you'll see that. I mean, obviously, it's no surprise that BRS will be doing test videos on this and the distribution tests, and you can imagine we've done all of that here, so we already know.
We're waiting for other people to come out with those things.
Here's a little secret: we built to the test.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be a surprise that we're going to do well on that. So we have no concerns. Let's just say, because we've already run all the same exact. We built the entire same testing platform that they use.
Well, why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? Exactly. I mean, duh, right? All right, move on.
I got that.
Okay, so here's an older picture of Richard Ross's tank back in 2018. He's running...
This tank is full.
Yeah, this tank is pre-trimming too, though, because in 2019, he stripped out a ton of corals out of his tank. He went in and hacked the heck out of his tank. I was over there, pre and post.
Just your moods like
but
that.
You can see it's very blue. There's a lot of kind of contrasty shadowing and whatnot going on. And the next picture is actually in it's trimmed out more. The corals are growing well. Again, he's been on it. He's one of the first NSI, I don't know, about 4 months or so. and he's loving it. And you can see down into the depths of those rocks and where all the light is getting down. Look down in the bottom corner near the sand in areas on the left and the right, and there's illumination. So these lights are putting light in the tank that people did not believe it could happen.
Yeah, and it's one thing that I remember him texting me often in the first couple weeks he was running it, corals that he didn't even know were still there, were suddenly just like coming back alive again and just
well, and I can assure you, because I've seen some things in some of the forums,
yeah.
people like Richard Ross, he's known to be the skeptical reef keeper. He writes papers on this stuff. He loves his tank like no other, and he's not going to throw something like some crappy lighting over his tank just so he can get it for free.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean,
it's got to be better than what he has, or he will not put it over his tank.
And he's a great tester of ours, right?
Yep.
Well respected. He's in the Bay Area, so it's easy to work with him. And I just love that tank.
Yeah, and you should see how he feeds one of these days. Watch some of his stuff. It's amazing. All right, let's move on. Next one. Dwayne. Yeah, Dwayne's good. So Dwayne Ostrich, whatever you want to call it.
Move on.
He's up in Seattle. He's kind of his reputation precedes him. He has been running a reef tank for a long, long time, and he actually sells a bunch of corals out of it. Cuts up tank
drops
corals,
them off all over.
Drops them off. He goes to the frag swaps. He has another tank in a little shed behind the house. But again, another person who's not just going to throw anything over their tank. It took him a long time just to go to LEDs. And I can't remember how many he took off of this, but it was a lot of LEDs from another manufacturer. And just recently he started posting pictures of his tank. Again, if this wasn't working well in 3 or 4 months, you wouldn't see the growth tips and the other things that he's seeing. And I can assure you, with the way he keeps his tank, there's no way he would keep our light over there if it wasn't exceeding expectations. And he is absolutely loving it. And so he has a 210, which is a standard 72-inch tank. He's got 3 of them over it.
Right, and this is an example of a heavily dominated SPS tank.
Correct.
Right? He could, if it was a new tank, it would be 2, but at this point he definitely needs 3. And I mean, when you look at the coral here, you can clearly see that the corals at the bottom of the tank are doing well, the corals at the top of the tank. And what's interesting here
too is... How much
is
light underneath here?
What I want to point out, which you probably wouldn't want me to, you see all those diatoms down there? that brown algae?
Yeah.
That actually means that enough light is getting down there
Yeah.
that wasn't getting there before.
Yeah, that's a good point, Paul.
And you wouldn't see that if light wasn't getting there. And
that's a really good point.
So
I didn't even think of that. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's super happy with his, and I don't think he's going to be changing them out anytime soon. In fact, he'll probably be converting his frag room or something at some point when we make them available.
Yeah.
All right, move on. What do we got next? Jay. All right, so this is another one of our NSI, not as well known. It's Jay Bretsky, okay? So are those the same photos? Those are different photos. So on the right, okay, it's a before and after, right? So on the left, he's got, it looks like...
No, those are skies. He's got skies on both of those.
Ah, okay. Didn't we have a before on his?
Yeah. So this...
Ah, okay. So I wanted to see the before. So here, his tank is what size again? I think it's a 4 foot.
That's a
5 foot?
72.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure it's...
I think it's a 5 foot.
It's a 5 foot?
I think it's a 5 foot tank, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's a 5 foot. Because
Okay.
I remember him saying about, are you sure that 2 are going to make it over my tank? Because he
okay.
had 3 of those lights.
All right.
And he's like, it kind of covers it. I have some issues, but whatever. And then move on back to now what his
So also let's
yeah.
just let's stop for a second there real quick. I just want us to all look at the edges really quickly. Observe.
Oh, very good point.
Observe,
so where I
observe
like to point people, and at the wrap I did too, is look in the back left corner of the tank, okay, and look at that one spot, like the 3-inch by 3-inch square there, and then look in the back right corner in area of the tank, and now look at it in the next one, with only 2 lights. And you'll see there's actually a bright spot in the back. You'll see a little bit of shadow there because there's a harsh shadow coming from the rock a little bit, but it's not completely dark. And you'll see a lot more light in the right-hand side as well, and you see light coming down in the inside of the rock stack.
And it's even.
It's even. Everything's
even
super even.
distribution, yeah.
So super good looking tank. He's running 2 AFSs, and he was concerned about running 2 because he was running 3 of the other light.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, just
It's
listen
gonna
to
be
me.
fine.
Everything's going to work fine. It's going to look great. Look at the back wall. You can see the evenness when you look at the back wall
Yeah.
too on these sometimes. Perfect. All right, next up.
Joe.
Joe. Let's go to Joe.
All right.
So Joe is a stickhead, and Joe works as a developer here for Neptune Systems, and some of the stuff you're going to see in a minute is all from Joe, right? All of the interface and whatnot. So Joe started his tank back in 2019, a few months after he joined us. He brought the tank in from Florida, where he came from, started putting some corals down in it, and the coral on the left is before he, before he put the sky over it. He was running T5 along with Kessel's, right? A hybrid, a really standard hybrid, and the tank was doing okay. What's that?
Correction. I think this might be Chad's.
Oh, is this Chad's? Okay, so very similar. Okay, and yeah, okay, this is Chad's. Oh, actually, Chad got this coral from me. This is Little Red Ferrari.
Yeah.
He got it from me and put it in the tank. The sky's over it, and you can see how it grows corals for sure. Okay, so this kind of lighting, this broad kind of lighting, absolutely grows corals, and corals like this with that kind of structure, Paul, need to get light everywhere, or they start dying off in the inside if they don't have flow and light. Okay, let's keep it going.
Some of these might be Chad's, but then Joe's.
Okay, so here's now some more evidence. This is a Walt Disney, right? So you're seeing a Walt Disney growing under this.
So May was when he was running another light, and now in October of last year is when he, I think a couple months.
Yeah. So there's a 5-month span. So keep moving. There's another coral. Keep moving. We don't have to stick on all of these. There's another coral you can see. Keep going. Now this is in Joe's tank. It's kind of hard to see the growth on this, but this is 4 months, and it may look to you like it's bigger on the left, but we can assure you it is. You can see some of the growth rings on it, and know how much it's grown since then. So the edge that you see in the picture on the left is where that ridge is. On the coral on the right. So it's kind of like a tree's growth ring.
Right. And
so
it basically has gone about 2 or 3 inches out, if not more.
It's a lot of growth.
Yeah.
It's a lot of growth. Okay, so let's move on. That's it. So, so we've been hiding that on Joe's tank for some time. That he's had that over there when we've been filming it and whatnot. So the treat now is we're actually going to show Joe's tank live. Okay.
So this is some pretty cool technology.
So we're using the same kind of camera that I used at my house on my tank back during I think Black Friday last year. Paul's going to drive, right, Paul?
Yeah.
Okay. So Paul's going to drive, and we can actually zoom in on. We're going to dig right into the tank and the interface.
So this is Joe's tank right now as we film.
So let me stop right there, Paul, and say, let's get some comments of whether or not you guys think this is a great look, and if Joe knows how to grow corals. Let's get some comments going here, okay? Because I think he does. He obsesses over this tank.
Yep.
That's probably the best way to put it.
He is an engineer for sure. And one thing I want to demonstrate here right now. Is that right now we are in a mode that Neptune Systems calls photo mode.
Okay.
Okay. This is not how Joe normally runs his tank, but I would say all of the coloration right now and all of the corals that are coming through very well. I can even do this cool thing.
Hang on one second,
okay?
Because I'm going to kind of do my marketing guy thing for a second.
Got it.
So we've talked about kind of the spread. We've talked about the spectrum and the choices that we made for LEDs. There's 3 key things that really define the sky and what we've tried to do. And so the first 2 are the spread and the spectrum of the light, okay? And the third one is simple.
Simple.
And we really looked at a lot of lights out there that had a ton of capabilities, but for people to unlock the potential and to be successful with it was just over and over a big problem. And we're not talking about just new people, even store owners setting these up.
It's coming to almost like a nuclear, kind of control center.
Yeah, you've got all these sliders, and you don't know what this one does, and you do dots over here and everything. So making this simple and making it successful for every user, and still providing the control-free kind of control that we need to have, was something we had to do. So Joe has really been working on making this super simple. We wanted you to be able to put the light in various modes when you know, ad hoc, whenever you want to.
Yeah.
Make the schedule super simple so you can just be in and out and setting up your schedule.
Right, and so what we're seeing right now over here in the right, you can kind of see me, is me on my...
This is like DJ mode, right?
This is DJ mode, right? And so this is right now in photo mode. What basically Joe runs here at the office is a mode that we call Neptune Sky, right? Mm-hmm. We felt that this was a little bit too blue, you know, when we were taking pictures and things like that.
It still looks great.
It still looks great, right?
I'd say it arguably looks, it is as blue as and good as the tank looks when you look at it in real life.
It looks very clear right now.
It's very clear.
You know, and then we have a mode called Coral Growth Mode. This is essentially all of the lights and all of the channels at 100%, right? Mm-hmm. When you look at this, you will see a radium bulb. At least that was our inspiration, and I think we nailed it. Then, you know, we have this photo mode. And I want you to take a close look at the colors before and after. I don't think the colors really changed, right? We just took it so you could literally put it into photo mode and pull out your iPhone or your Android and you know, take a picture. Right. We have modes that you're probably very familiar with, right? We have the AB Plus mode and the PH14 mode. That
Coral Lab AB Plus.
That you're probably very familiar with. And then we have, you know, a very blue mode that is, when you look at this bulb, when you look at this mode, it's called ATI Blue Plus mode, and it's like looking at a tank that's just illuminated by T5s. Those ATI Blue Plus bulbs.
Yep.
When we showed the Coral vendors this mode, all of them were like, "Oh yeah, that's exact." You know, and we're like, there's still a little bit of white in there, guys, but not much. It's a crisp, clean look. And any point that you want to customize a mode for yourself, I don't know if you can see too well down here in the bottom right, but you can customize any mode that you want. So you hit the customize button, and right now there's the channels. And let's say if we wanted to go over, let's say if you want to go all the way down to UV only, right? You can see the tank just in UV mode, right? If you wanted to see the tank in just all white mode, sorry.
Yeah, Donald Martin, who is on our NSI, says one of the things he loves is you can run all the channels at 100%, and it looks great. And that was the goal, for sure.
And this is the all-white mode if you wanted a very, you know,
freshwater
tank look, you know.
Or you want to look like Mark Levinson's, you know, 8 to 10K bulb on the...
Right. So, you know, that's basically all of the different modes you can go through. And it's...
So one of the questions is, you know, it's 4 channels. That's not control freak. But to be honest, more people mess up, even people who are control freaks, than can do good by trying to fine-tune and tweak every little thing. Your eye itself is not a good indicator of the intensity of any one channel that's coming out. And, you know, having it curated for people ensures success and ensures a level of controllability.
Yeah, and one thing I just kind of wanted to take a second to be like, oh, isn't this cool? You see how there's kind of a delay anytime that I do something?
Oh yeah,
that's
right.
Entirely intentional.
Correct.
Right? Because we didn't want to have that shock
blink,
effect,
blink,
right?
Yeah.
Of lights suddenly coming on, colors suddenly changing.
Yep.
So everything has about a 1 or 2 second blending moment before it goes to the next thing, because we didn't have that at the initial, and we were seeing our fish kind of get spooked.
Right.
So that took care of that. Can I go through a little bit in terms of the
Show
configuration?
whatever, yeah.
So
show
this
the
is
easy stuff from the beginning of like how to do the schedule.
I will. So this is a new. So when the Sky releases, a new UI from Apex System will be on Apex Fusion will be available. You're not going to be forced into it, but this is essentially kind of what it looks like. You know, in this situation here, we have a water quality tile. We have a sky tile, as you can see here, and then for an Easter egg, we even have a video screen that doesn't take any port
that
forwarding.
may or may not be there. It's still in development.
It's
okay.
It's exciting.
So it's exciting. It's interesting. We don't know if it's going to make it in the first run or not. So don't quote us on that. But
and to
you
set
know
it
we're
up,
working on things.
And don't worry. It's still right there.
Yep.
Okay. Don't worry. It's not. It hasn't gone anywhere.
But it is a progression of the interface.
Okay. So you'll be able to easily get to that. If you want to program the lights, you just do a tap on that tile, and that brings up DJ mode. But then I can just hit this little calendar button, and now I am programming.
Right. Well, you're not programming. You're
configuring.
I
said a bad word.
You're just setting up the schedule. That's what you're doing,
I'm
Paul.
setting up the schedule.
Yeah.
And it has a sunrise time, it has a sunset time, and then what do you want during daylight hours?
Right.
Right? And we'll take care of, don't worry, we'll take care of doing that sunrise that you love. We'll take care of doing that sunset you love where it's really blue.
Correct.
And really blue at the beginning and end of the day. And then during the middle of the day, we'll have it be the peak color.
And right about now, you're freaking out all of the control freaks on the live stream because they're like...
But hold on, and you could choose these modes, okay? And then there's a brightness slider where you want it to go very, very dim, right? You want it to go very bright.
And by the way, our camera's going to compensate for this, so
right. So
it's hard to tell.
Yeah, so it's very easy to do these things in terms of setting up the light. Of course, if you want to tweak it, just as I showed you earlier, you can tweak it, okay? Then there is an acclimation mode. I saw that question earlier, right? So if you want to acclimate into the changes that you're making, you'll be able to turn that on or off.
And what does that do exactly?
Basically, whatever you were doing, right, it goes slowly into what you're doing next,
Okay.
right? Or you can say, you know what, I want to start at a low level of intensity, like let's say I want to go 40%, and I want to push it up to 60%.
Okay.
Right? And you can go slowly into that, and you can set how many days it's going to do that over.
Okay.
Okay? Now, don't worry, control freaks. Right now, you see this little...
And we're going a little bit long, but there's a lot of stuff to do today on this, and everybody wants to see it. So those of you that hang out, it's awesome. We're going to have an announcement about NSI too, so hang with us and stick with this demo for a little while.
You can't see it too well in the app, but there's a little button here that says Reef Pro.
Okay.
I'm going to click that.
Bada bing.
There you go.
There it goes.
I think it's because it's streaming to the
Oh,
computer right now. Yeah, it's just.
Well, now
it's
you
getting
lost it
a little
again.
tight.
You must
I know.
hit it twice.
I hit it twice. So.
That looks familiar.
There's your graph.
So most lights out there start users out in some form of something like this, and it confuses them like you can't believe.
Right, and so you then click the little. You want to set up a point. You want to add a point. You want to do whatever you want to do. You have your graph. You have your intensity. You can change that as you'd like. Okay, so don't worry. You can't do that. You can still have it be complicated if you want, or it can be very simple.
And you can still run it kind of like you're running third-party lights in the old graph mode, whatnot, in the Apex dashboard,
so
whatnot as well.
If you're like, you know what, I just want to do it the way that I've always done it before.
Profiles, and I want to go hardcore.
That's not a problem. Here I am in the classic the Apex Fusion dashboard, not the
current Apex Fusion dashboard.
The current Apex Fusion dashboard. I don't know Joe's tank as well as he does, obviously, so I have to kind of get there back ways. All right, there it is. So if you like the old way and you just want to do it the old way,
still there. And you can put in all kinds of other, code and programming around it.
And these lights are all, and one thing you've noticed too, these lights are all grouped together.
Right.
And if you say, well, I have this light over here that I want to run differently.
Right.
You take it out of the group. It's just that easy.
Yep.
So.
Yep, absolutely.
Simple.
It is. Everything,
Simple.
For most people, they're going to run that other interface. They're going to pick what color they like for the light. They're going to pick when they want it to come on, when they want it to come off. They're going to say, I want moonlights, and they're going to call it done. And then once in a while, when they have people over, they're going to throw it into DJ mode, want to take a photo. They hit the button, you're done.
Part of the features too here is I want it to be in blue mode because I'm having friends over, and they all love it when the tank just glows, but I'll forget about it.
Yeah, for sure.
So you can set a timer, say I want to keep this for 2 hours. Keep it for 2 hours.
Now, there's a good question here from Lucas. Lucas said, can the Sky work with a Neptune PAR meter? The Neptune PAR monitoring kit provides its data back to the Apex, just like any kind of monitoring device on the Apex. So absolutely, if you wanted to do some kind of tricky stuff with the PAR meter results and the levels of your Sky, it's entirely possible. That's like level 400 kind of stuff right now. Maybe in the future we'll have some very advanced kind of features that are simplified for the average user.
Somebody asked, "What's up with the zip ties?"
Yes.
Joe's got a little bit of an aptasia problem. Well, he had one.
Yes.
He had a terrible aptasia problem.
He blames me.
He got some nudibranchs. Okay, but this right here, it's just too much flow. So this was an idea that he had, that he put some of this really tough material and then zip tied it to it. And so the idea is that the bird, at night, the birds would come over to here, and that's where they
wouldn't get blown off. They'd have something to hold on to.
It's actually gotten a little better.
Yeah.
So it's sort of worked, but I think ultimately he just needs to get somebody's file fish.
Yeah, exactly. You can come borrow my fish because I don't have that problem in my tank.
Yeah.
And he blames me for getting it.
Yeah, it's all
Okay,
Terence's fault.
so what do we have any other questions that we need to answer that I haven't handled here, Vincent? Perfect one. Christian Fuentes, does each light need to be plugged into the Aquabus ports? So if you have 3 lights, 3 Aquabus ports, and do they all talk to each other when you control them?
It's like
we forgot to bring the
wire. So there is a new Neptune Systems accessory. Initially, it'll be sold only with only come with the skies.
Correct.
Eventually, it'll probably be available separately.
It's a Y cable.
It's a cable that Ys, right? So the idea is here you plug one sky in, and maybe you can plug another Y cable into it.
Right.
Maybe you plug 2 skies into it, and then you plug that into an available Aquabus port. So the idea is that you have 6 lights, right? You have 5 of these cables, boom, 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 boom.
You just tie them all together, and then they go into your 1 or 2 Aquabus ports on it.
Yeah.
And yes, you can run the Sky's moonlights. You don't need an additional module for that. It's all built in.
How long is the power cable on the Sky? It's 12 feet.
Yeah, so it's a combined cable, as I said. So it's one cable.
We're still.
What? Oh, sorry.
They can't see you hold it up.
You're still.
Now.
Hey, you want to go back to me on that one?
Nobody
No?
wants to see us.
Okay, so it's a 12-foot overall cable. The last foot of the cable splits off into both Aquabus and to the power cord. So you only have one wire, and it's not really that thick of a wire either.
It's what you kind of would expect.
I don't know, it's like 8 millimeters maybe wire, something like that.
Actually,
okay?
it's
So other questions? In general, think of it this way, guys. Somewhere, depending on what kind of corals you're running, you're going to be somewhere between 24 by 30 inches per light, if it's really intense light that you need, up to 30 by 36 inches.
30 by 36, yep.
For stuff that's less demanding. And start to divide up your tank that way, and understand that you can basically rotate them to fit the
That's
space.
not us overquoting anything.
Yeah.
36 by 30.
They'll see the numbers when they come out. And by the way, Dana Riddle is actually doing a bunch of testing on it as well. So you'll get that third-party information, BRS's third-party information. So all of that will be coming out, and we hope soon, because we know the numbers are going to be awesome, because we know what they do. Okay, so wanted to hit on cost and value here a little bit before we close this down, and then talk about the NSI stuff.
Ooh, yeah.
So cost and value. So there was a lot of chatter about, oh my God, this is an ungodly expensive light. And the fact is that reef keeping is an expensive hobby. And keeping awesome corals requires you generally to have really good lights. If you want a clean look over your tank, controllability and efficacy on your tank, and a really good look over the tank, you're going to spend, because all of the premium solutions are around the same $750 to $1,100 cost.
Because that's how much it costs to build these lights.
Yeah.
Right? It's not, it's...
Well, there's channel costs and everything else, but ultimately, between a 170 watt and a 220 watt light, that's kind of the whole range, they're all about in that same price point.
Because they all use good LEDs.
Correct. But because of the kind of what I call the origination of light size, they're all kind of different in how much they cover. And the value that you absolutely get, or if they have even a diffuser on them. So I just want to tell people to really look at that. Look at Jay Bretsky's tank, where he had 3 of the other light on there, and he's now able to cover it with 2. Yep. Some people having a 24 by 36, like we put at the show, would have
2 lights on there.
Yeah, would have 2 lights on it, or 2 or 3 of another light.
And one with no additional bells and whistles. I think
and it's clean too.
And that's something I mentioned earlier, right? There's no supplementation required.
Right.
There's nothing else for you to figure out. It's put this light up, get the spread that we said you're going to get, and be happy with it.
What LEDs are used in the Sky? Basically, they're Cree and Lumileds, and one other brand I can't remember right now. There's I think 3 or 4 different LED brands in there, but the majority of them are Cree and Lumiled LEDs, I believe. So anyway, that's kind of the value statement. The price we haven't mentioned is $870, $869.95. Yep. And that includes obviously the diffuser. It includes the Y cable, the power supply, everything you need to run it. You can run it Bluetooth or connected, either way. And then the kit, the wire kit that we do have available it's actually less expensive than some of the others on the market. It's $35 for the wire kit. Okay. With all the hardware that you need.
And one thing we had not touched on at all. I don't want any Neptune orange to be seen.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this was a thing, right?
I actually don't know. I don't know where the clip went, but
I have it right here.
Oh, good. So, okay, no Neptune orange.
I'm not into orange. You guys have too much orange. Your designs have way too much orange on them. There you go. We kind of took care of that for you. Now you don't have to worry about orange.
Not orange.
It's gray.
Gray.
So.
And that's included with every Sky.
Yep, you get that with it as well.
You get that choice.
And you get this awesome string bag. So there it is right there.
Did I mention the string bag?
Yes, exactly. That's going to put it over the top for everybody, okay? Some of you will get an orange one, some of you will get a gray one. You can trade them, whatever.
Hopefully you don't get hopefully if you get a couple, you don't get just gray, just orange, but if you do.
So when's it going to ship? It's going to start shipping in about 4 to 6 weeks.
To our dealers.
And then they have to get it to you. Mm-hmm. There may or may not be a pre-order from dealers. We don't know exactly yet if there will be. And quantities will be limited. I mentioned earlier today in a meeting here that I'm kind of glad that Apple is out of AirTags, because then I can point to that for people and say even companies as big as Apple can't meet extreme demand.
It was funny at the show, right? When people would say, "Oh, when's it going to be available?" and we would say 4 to 6 weeks, and the people that were involved in manufacturing, right? They would always ask the question, "How is it available in 4 to 6 weeks?" Right?
Right.
Because they know the challenges that are being faced with manufacturers right now. It is not pretty.
Right.
So as a result of that,
and there's chip issues that are out there that will be affecting things. It's a completely kind of murky situation right now for a lot of manufacturers.
Yeah.
Another quick question people said, what about cleaning the fans? So at the end of wrap, you can basically, we had dust on them that came on because it's just a really gross environment there everywhere, and we just wiped it off. You can obviously hit them with air to clean them off.
They're nice thin grate, so they don't let a lot through.
And they're metal.
In terms of,
it's good quality.
Yeah.
So there you go. Boy, I think we had enough here today, Paul. We are at 1 hour and 15 minutes. Is there something I missed?
Did you want to show that pic?
Which one?
The value pic.
Is there one?
That right there.
Oh, the last thing on value. Thank you for bringing that up.
I think this is such a great illustration.
Does Vincent have that picture? No? Okay, so go out to the website for neptunesystems.com/sky if you want to see the sky. At the bottom, there's a discussion about value, and there's a photo there of Matt Dudley's tank in South Florida. He's really kind of a gadget freak kind of guy too.
Very Dwayne-like.
Exactly.
In terms of the corals.
And so
all
he was running 7 LED lights of, I think they're Generation 4 lights on that tank, along with 4 T5s and 2 LED strips, I think, or 4 LED strips. It's all in the web page.
I think Vincent's going to pull it up for us here.
Yeah, he's going to try to pull it up here. He's on something else now. Oh, where's the sandbox, buddy?
Hang on.
We're dark here, buddy.
It's that good a pick.
Yes.
Yeah, so
anyway, he ripped all of that out and put 5 sky over it. The tank is, I want to say the tank is 9 feet long, 108 inches, I think, long. And he put 5 sky over it, transverse. It's, I think, 36 front to back on the tank. And you can see everything he pulled out. And this person, Matt Dudley, you can see him out online everywhere. He's pretty prolific out there with his tank. He is not going to accept lower quality on his tank.
And so let's just break it down. He had 8 lights,
yes.
T5s, LED strips.
Yes.
He went down to 5 skies. It does more.
Yes. It cost him less money, right, at retail than all of that gear. And he's saving, he told me, $85 a month in electricity.
So there you go. All right.
Boom.
I think that's everything else. But now
NSI.
We have an NSI.
Okay.
We get the question now. What are we looking for, Fu?
So we have a difficulty sometimes with NSI because we have a lot of really great, dedicated control freak guys. They're really super geeky, right? They get into it. They're very dedicated to testing our stuff. Unfortunately,
we love them. They find the most esoteric of things.
Correct.
But that's not what I'm looking for right now.
However, they are not the greatest people to test the kinds of things which are noob kind of things, things that require people to not have a great technical grasp. And again, part of the key pillar for this product is simple. So we need people that well, I don't want to say that we need people that are simple. We need people that that basically are not as advanced.
If you want to plug it in and for it just to work,
correct.
That's what we want.
Exactly. So what we're going to do is we're going to open NSI back up, and what we're looking for specifically is people who have had their Apex for less than a year.
Or don't have an Apex.
If they don't have an Apex, that's great too.
Yeah.
Right? They can sign in too and just put in like all 9s for your serial number or something like that, I guess, because I think it is required. And we want to get those people that are as new as possible. We're going to be sorting through all of that. We do have a way of checking if your account is older than that. So if you just select the thing and you've been here for 4 years and you select, oh yeah, I've only been 6 months, we will know.
We know.
And if you create a new account today, just to try to get it,
we will know.
We will know.
We will know.
So, so one way or another, we're going to know. We've got the address up here for you to go to. It's going to be open until Monday at 5 p.m. our time here, and you can go out and register and put all your information in, and then you'll get selected at the next step if you meet certain criteria. We'll go through and pick. We'll see who you are. All of those kinds of things, and then maybe get another questionnaire, and you got to go through an NDA, and nothing is free. So if you're looking for a free light, I'm telling you right now, don't even.
There has to be value attached to this.
Yeah, if it's free, it has no value. So absolutely join up. Let's see you guys roll in if you're interested. And, we want to get somebody. I don't know what's cracking me up more, that it's Alan or the face.
Yeah.
The face just gets me too,
Oh, that's one of our engineers.
Oh, you bust me up, Alan. Good job, buddy. Good job. Might get a tear to my eye on that one. All right, guys, that's it for today.
Yeah.
We'll be back in 2 weeks, maybe. I don't know, when is it?
You're not Aquashelled yet.
Not Aquashella yet?
Yeah,
okay.
not then. You'll be available.
Okay, so we will be here in 2 weeks for another Let's Talk Reef. But more importantly, Monday, I'm going to be on first with Mark Callahan to discuss the CCHE integration. And he's going to show us how he has done CCHE integration.
Yeah.
And how it works and whatnot.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to be showing IOTA with CCHE with pumps. Okay.
Yep. And then you're going to show people how to do it.
Yeah. That's the plan.
So that's on Monday. That's going to be at. Oh man, I'm gonna look for it on Facebook because I don't want to misquote, but I think it's 3 in the afternoon.
And then I will be joining Derek on Saturday.
Oh, that's right.
With Reef Automation at, I think 10 a.m. Is that when you?
I think when he usually does it at 10 a.m. So if you have really geeky questions for Paul, we did the whole Sky thing here, but mostly the geeky of geeky stuff. That's what Paul's going to be there for.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Until next time, enjoy those fish and take care.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.